The ANC says it will prioritise looking at policy measures to reduce the current cost of living, particularly the pricing of electricity. Eskom has proposed an electricity hike of 44% for the 2024-25 financial year. Chairperson of the ANC NEC Economic Transformation Subcommittee, Mamphweli, says in order to reduce the high cost of electricity, the energy sector needs to be stabilised.
As we continue pushing forward measures to reduce electricity costs, our commitment to protecting households from unaffordable tariffs is unwavering. We are working tirelessly to stabilise the energy sector, ensuring that subsidies and protections are in place for those most vulnerable. Electricity must serve as a public good, not an unaffordable luxury. And our aim is to secure a stable and resilient energy supply.
Now, Head of Energy Secretariat to the South African National Energy Development Institute, Professor Sampson Mamphweli, joins us for more. Prof, good to speak to you. Under these conditions, the last time we chatted, we had problems, load shedding problems, but it's been 212 days without any load shedding. But I'd like to start off with that statement by Mamphweli a little while ago, where she talks about electricity should be for the public good. Now, let's juxtapose this to Eskom's request to increase or to hike electricity by 44%. Is it justified? The ANC suggesting maybe not, shouldn't go ahead with it. What's your take on it?
Yeah, good afternoon to you and the viewers. So on the side of Eskom, they've got the right to make that submission because they are looking at a cost-reflective tariff. On the side of the consumers, there are many aspects that we look at, the affordability side of things, and I'm happy that the ANC is looking at things such as your subsidies going forward. There's also another submission from Eskom for retail tariff plan that is now sitting with the National Energy Regulator. So once we've gone through the first submission, the National Energy Regulator will issue a public participation document for the retail tariff plan. And that tariff plan, according to Eskom, will lead to stabilization of the tariffs, and we might see the electricity tariffs stabilizing, not increasing in the next few years as well. So electricity pricing model is quite important as things stand. And I've listened to the ANC statement where they talked about using things such as your alternative energy sources to cushion kind of the households. If you look at the price of solar energy, for instance, it has gone down drastically. Government is currently giving 50 free basic units to households, and some of our views as SANEDI is that we, instead of giving households those free basic units, you can do what the ANC is now proposing. You can install solar PV systems that can be able to give them even more than the 50 free basic units on a monthly basis going forward. So this is good in terms of planning going forward. However, the issues around the municipal debt and the fact that we need new generation capacity. I had Ms. Kubai talking about the sustainable energy supply. While we are out of the woods for now, there's a looming crisis. Eskom needs to decommission about 8 gigawatts of coal-fired power stations between now and 2035. And as things stand, there's no proper plan on how we're going to replace that 8 gigawatts between now and 2035. And if we don't quickly arrest that in terms of planning and bring in new generation capacity as quickly as possible, which can be done by two ways, either renewable energy with battery energy storage systems or other storage systems, and gas supply, which we don't have in the country. We need to import from other areas. So we need to quickly concentrate on that aspect to ensure that sustainable energy supply. Otherwise, we might see worse than what we've gone through in the past few years in terms of load shedding.
Now, Professor, the West, I'd like to think, has committed to funding the just energy transition to the tune of, I think, billions of rand. Now, just are we obliged, if that money does not come through, to decommission that 8 gigawatt by 2035?
So there's no link between the money that the West has provided and our just energy transition in terms of our own planning. What happened is that in terms of our own integrated resource plan, we need to decommission those power stations. Let me just take this moment and talk to Komati power station. When Eskom decommissioned Komati power station, it was not because they were given money by the West. It was because they were implementing the integrated resource plan. It was partly because that particular power station had reached its end of life, and it was becoming more expensive to run the power station. Now, the challenge was that they decommissioned the power station before they had proper plans and the money available to deal with the issues around just energy transition. They did not lose a single job out of that kind of decommissioning, because they took all their employees to work in elsewhere. And some of them remained to work on some of the projects that are planned for Komati Power Station. So we've got a very good example of what to do and what not to do from the Komati, the lessons that we learned from Komati Power Station. What the international community did was to give us $8.5 billion to say, here's the money in kind of a pledge that you can use as you go through your just energy transition to assist you with the transition. And that money, in my view, is not a lot of money. If you look at the amount of money that we need to transition, it's in the region of trillions of rands. I'm currently presiding over a detailed study that is sponsored by the DBSA, and the results looking at the just energy transition, what are the investment requirements between now and 2050 and all that. That study, the results will be, actually the report will be handed over to the president quite soon. And the numbers that are coming out from there are quite interesting. I'm not going to mention them because I don't have authority to do so.
Okay, so let's not talk about specific numbers, but let's have a conversation about, can we achieve these targets by 2035? And if not, what is the alternative plan?
So if we are to achieve the 2035 targets, we need to drastically and urgently put down a plan. And that plan, from the SANEDI's point of view, we just came out of our conference where we discussed part of this plan that we've got. That's looking at using renewable energy, because you can build renewable energy projects within 24 months. Coupling with that with battery energy storage facilities, and also bringing in the gas side of things. From West Africa, you can bring the gas down using the coast, and then having power stations inland where we can then produce electricity to cover for the 8 gigawatts deficit. So gas, in our view, can be used as a transition for the just energy transit, as a transition fuel kind of a thing. So those are some of the plans that we need to bring on board. We need to start looking at the role of nuclear, which is something that we have discussed extensively at our energy conference that concluded about 2 days ago. And if we are to embark on a nuclear new build capacity, we need to start planning now for 2050, because it takes you about 10 to 15 years to build big nuclear power plants. So those are some of the things that we need to be very seized with. We need energy, some form of energy independence, and we need some form of localization. Some of the plans, I mean, the biggest issue that we have at the moment is the grid capacity. We've got about 3,500 megawatts that could not be connected or that could not be allocated by government because there's no grid capacity. We're starting to ask questions, can't we use the power pool, for instance, where we we have our projects feeding through the Southern African power pool, and then we tap the power from there back to South Africa. Those are some of the issues that we're starting to look at in terms of the research and development part of things, so that we can be able to advise government going forward.
Well, Eskom certainly seems to be doing many things right, at least in the last 212 days, because that's the sort of number of days that we've gone without load shedding, saving close on 12.32 billion rand, which ordinarily would have gone to diesel to manage electricity supply in the country. Let's talk about what Eskom has done right in the last few months.
So there's a number of things that Eskom has done right. One, the President's Energy Action Plan is working. Eskom was given money by national government to cover their debt, and then they use their balance sheets to fix the coal fleet that has been giving problems. And that has worked wonders. We have seen the improvements in the energy availability factor for the coal fleet. So basically, there's a huge improvement in the performance of the Eskom coal fleet. That is one of the issues. The second issue is we've seen renewable energy coming on board, assisting a lot, assisting the country to avoid up to 2 stages of load shedding at any point in time. That's on the solar and the wind energy side of things. We have also seen the rise in the installation of small-scale embedded generation. That is also associated with government's intervention on the Energy Action Plan, where government made available a subsidy where people can draw up to 15% back when they install this solar PV. So we've seen up to about 6 gigawatts of rooftop and ground-mounted solar PV systems at households and businesses. So those are some of the things that are assisting Eskom going forward. They have also deployed very qualified power station managers who have been given the powers to make decisions at power station level, which is part of what government has been advocating that Eskom should be doing. So those are some of the things that have helped the country get out of the current situation. For now, things are still okay, but going forward, we expect that the economy will grow. We also expect that there will be the decommissioning of some of the coal fleet, and based on those two factors, we are now calling for the government to start looking at plans to close those gaps. As things stand, Eskom during the day, they have more than enough generation capacity to supply the entire country. The deficit comes in the evening peak when the sun is not shining, where we rely mainly on the storage facilities. We don't have enough storage. So Eskom has been saying that we need to fast track the procurement of battery energy storage facilities now, and also look at what will we use to basically offset the 8 gigawatts going forward. Those are their two main concerns as things stand. And from the public entities point of view, as SANEDI, we are working closely with Eskom to try and come up with some of the plans, both on the transmission grid side of things and also on the new generation capacity side of things, that will assist the nation going forward in terms of avoiding load shedding.
So we have deficit when it comes to that energy that's supposed to be going onto the grid, as you suggest. Is this where the IPPs would come in?
Yeah, the IPPs are coming in very strongly, and they are helping a lot. I mean, they help us avoid at least a minimum of 2 stages of load shedding, and this is from the data that's coming from the Eskom system operator and the IPP office. Going forward, we think that even Minister Mamphweli at some point, he talked about fast-tracking the procurement of new generation capacity through the National Transmission System Operator Company, the company that came out from the breaking down of Eskom into 3 companies. And that will basically open up the electricity market, and then we will be able to fast-track new generation capacity from renewables and other sources, as well as your battery energy storage facilities, to assist with new generation capacity and also the storage facilities going forward. But that needs to be done as quickly as possible. The issues around nuclear, we need to look at that like urgently if we are to look at into the future as well.
Final question, Professor, before we let you go. I want to go back to that 44% tariff hike that has been proposed by Eskom. Worst case scenario, what happens if Eskom doesn't get the 44% hike? What are the implications? And on the other hand, if it is granted that hike, then where do we see electricity supply?
Yeah, so if Eskom doesn't, well, most probably I can predict that they won't get that 44% or so from NERSA, because NERSA need to consider a number of aspects, including whether the public can afford that kind of electricity price and the economy as well. If it gets granted, it won't be good for the economy, because what happens is that businesses pass that tariff over to the consumers, and then that means that the price of goods and services goes up, which basically tempers with the inflation and basically the economic growth of the country. So while the Eskom is correct and they are right in their calculations to say we need a cost-reflective tariff, on the other hand, the consequences are dire for the economy and for South Africans. What I see happening is that they will get a lesser tariff increase, and then government needs to come in to provide the shareholder equity injections, which is what some people refer to as bailouts. It's basically the shareholder assisting their company to keep afloat, because Eskom dearly needs that money to service their fleet. It will be good if municipalities can come on board in terms of paying for their electricity. They are owing more than 80 billion rands. So if that money comes on board, it lessens the pressure on the side of Eskom, because it then makes the Eskom balance sheet much better for them to be able to service their electricity generation, transmission and distribution fleet.
Head of Energy Secretariat of the South African National Energy Development Institute, SANEDI, Professor Sampson Mamphweli. Always good to speak to you, so appreciate your time.